Good morning, good day, good evening. Hey, glad you're here to stay. That's all that matters. Pelicans Daily presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Keep supporting the journey, keep supporting the vision. All is appreciated. Greatly, greatly, greatly. But let's just get right into it. Although, hey, hope all is well with y'all. Hope y'all had a good weekend, and hope y'all been enjoying these NBA finals. It's been interesting so far. I know today's last game was a little bit of a blowout, but Thunder had to go make a statement. They had to go remind folks we won 68 games. Okay, like let's not play games. All right, we like that. So we're trying to get like that too. You feel me? Sometimes though, it calls for tough decisions. Calls for tough plans and tough moves. And I've talked about Mr. Herbert Jones quite a bit on this channel. That's my guy. Herb, fellow class of 17 member. But man, oh man, Pelicans debrief. Chris Lambert, my man. We've been name dropping you all the time. Is it over with Herb? He wrote an article that was very profound that I was reading, and it talked about the marriage potentially being over. It said the honeymoon phase has been gone. And I'm not a pro athlete, but from what I've been told by the friends of mine or the people that I know that do play pro, they do say it feels, you feel a way, when your organization thinks you're disposable, replaceable, and they're putting your name out there in different rumors. As we all know, there's quote unquote no one who is untouchable, quote unquote. If we're being real though, it's Zion, it's Trey, and I would arguably say Eve more than I would say Herb, just because of his age, present health, and ability and ceiling. I would like to put Herb in that third spot, but unfortunately, looking at the nature of things, he likely is closer to being expendable only because of the amount of value he provides as just a versatile, multifaceted defensive wing that can handle the ball, that can space the floor. Again, I say like Tayshaun potential, like, damn near down to play style. And Tayshaun was a championship starter, and he was a starter on, multiple Eastern Conference championship appearances. So, yeah, it makes sense. And granted, the asking price has to be high. So, an interesting trade. I'm gonna get to it. Right, I've been warming y'all up. It's time to just throw the burger on the grill. Ain't no more time to talk about it. But a trade with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a team also trying to kind of figure out their identity in a way. They have things a little more figured out than us because they were able to hit big with Ja, with Jaren Jackson Jr., with Desmond Bane. But they're asking themselves, is this big three enough? Do we need more, or are we going to blow it up? You add a guy like Herb Jones, he can make things easier for everybody on that team. On the flip, youth is the absolute ultimate premium in this setting. When building a roster, when building a team that can hopefully and ideally become something special, you have to think about your draft picks. You have to think about the assets that you have and that you can further get, right? In this trade, we would get a 2026 first round pick and a 2028 first round pick. 2026, I've talked about that draft class. Cameron Boozer, AJ DeBansa, Darren Peterson, Elijah Arenas, Kareem Lopez. I mean, some people are saying that that class is going to end up stronger than this one. You know what I'm saying? we'll see. But I will say this draft, I think this draft right now is going to be deeper. But I think this next one is going to have like more like alpha number one type of scores. So kind of pick your poison, you know? And no telling how Memphis is going to do. But then also having extra picks to leverage in any trades, signing trade, whatever, like it doesn't hurt. So I would hate to go through this trade. And also the sweetening on top of on top, we would get Brandon Clark. You know what I'm saying? Last year, you know, injuries and stuff like that, he wasn't at his best, but he's a career 10, 6, an assist and a block on 61% from the field, 70% from the free throw shooting guy. As a 6'8", 6'9" big, he gets up. He can, you know, keep the defense honest with the mid-range, and he's great in the pick and roll, great in the pick and pop. So it could be a lot worse. I think, like, you know, Brandon Clark as a player, I don't know where he fits in the timeline of, like, is he a guy that we build around with, or he's just like a valuable role player? But, you know, you have him in a role where he can alternate between a 5 and a 4, and then you got draft pick assets. You might be able to swing him and that into something else. You know, who knows? Just depending on what players are available, what teams are feeling bold, and who is crazy enough to go forth and pull the trigger. Who's gonna do it? But yeah, a little food for thought. You know, I've talked about a lot of trades on this channel. I don't want to see Herb get traded. The goal is not to get Herb traded, but I have to cover it. I have to speak on it. It's a real thing that could happen, given that no one on the team is an untouchable. But as I said, Zion, Trey, and Eve to me seem like the most untouchable prospects at the present moment. So we gonna see. But also with we gonna see, we need more bench scoring. We need more of a scoring pop off the bench. We need more shot creators, which is why if we stay with pick 7, I'm hoping we get Jeremiah Fears. I know some of y'all are like, no, let's go Kaman, let's go Khan, let's go Trey Johnson. I've heard it all. I've talked about it all, damn near. We not going to know until July 25th hits. But in the meantime, right, unrestricted free agent, veteran for 9 going 10 years, Caris LeVert, right? Caris LeVert has been a long respected guy, had some great years in his days, had multiple years, averaged, you know, over 18 a game, had a year we averaged nearly 21 a game, very efficient shooting. Last year averaged almost 13, 3 boards, 3 assists, 47% from the field, 37 from 3, 71 from the free throw line, a steal. And this was between 54 games in total between Atlanta and Cleveland. I'm like, at this point, he got to be sick and tired of both those places. He's always having some type of like, oh, you're going to Cleveland, oh, you're going to Atlanta, or you're going back to Brooklyn. Like he just can't escape any of them places. And a lot of people don't know with Caris LeVert, but if you're a music fan, right, he's I believe he's Eddie. He's Eddie's grandson and Gerald's nephew. So, you know, if you know about the LeVert family, how legendary they were, them Ohio ties is strong. I wonder, like, what inspired him to pick Michigan? That was a very intentional decision. That was very thought out to go to go to Michigan despite being from Ohio. That almost seems like a cardinal sin. But it would not be a cardinal sin to get a player who, in his time in the NBA, has averaged 14, 4 boards, 4 assists, a steal on 44% from the field, 35 from 3, and 74 from the free throw line. Unrestricted free agent, you know what I'm saying? He last signed a 2-year deal. Now, you know what I'm saying? We would work something out. But a player like him who can come in and energize and add breath of fresh air to the second unit, I'm not totally opposed to that. I've talked about shooting and size, And I want us to go to that direction first and foremost, but we could use, another scorer. We could use another ball handler. We could use another guy that's going to be a threat out there. So, a little food for thought, but I think it could go a lot worse. Keeping on the topic of signing and going for players who, who can provide size, though, Trendon Watford. Now, Trendon Watford is on the other side of the spectrum. Caris LeVert's a 6'5", 6'6" shooting guard. Trendon Watford is a 6'8", 6'9" big man who can also play a little bit of small forward. Averaged 10 a game last year, nearly 4 boards, 3 assists, 47 from the field, 33 from 3, and 76 from the free throw line. And he's only 24 years old, and he's it's only set to make $2.7 million. Now, Brooklyn right now, as a team, they're figuring themselves out. They're figuring their identity. They're figuring out who is meant to stay and who's going to go, what's going to happen in terms of who they build the team around. And, that's going to make forth a lot of their players being available. A lot. You know what I'm saying? I bet you even, Cam Thomas isn't necessarily safe where he's at. So who knows? But with Trendon Watford, what I'm saying, he's a player with developing skill. You could see he's made strides and improvements. He averaged career highs across the board. And off the bench or in a lineup where, it's him and Eve, he adds a floor spacing element and shot creating element that Eve doesn't have. You have to think in those regards of how do you fit in different moments and different lineups and different situations where you would have to be challenged and schemed for, but ideally and hopefully you're providing a defensive matchup that makes it difficult for the opposing team. You got to think in those ways. You get a guy like Trendon Watford who's athletic, able to space the floor, and plays a pretty efficient game offensively. That opens things up on the court. That opens things up for the rest of the team. And it makes it easier for whoever's going to end up becoming the point guard. Because make no mistake, I love GTA, but it's very apparent that we're going to look deep into the point guard position. But speaking of looking into the draft even further, let's really go into the draft. You know what I'm saying? Let's really talk about it. So, should we pick up a second round pick? Now, this was a very article which Chris Lambert, man, dude is a beast, he brought up. Now, he said that, looking at the last 3 drafts, for instance, right? Last 3 drafts, letting this one marinate in 2024, but looking at looking at the last 4 drafts, let's just say last 4 drafts, that there might be a need to pick up a second round pick because you might miss out on a player like Jalen Wells or from this past year, or Toumani Camara from the Portland Trailblazers in 2023, Andrew Nembhard, who's right now in the NBA Finals and he's playing incredibly well, or our guy Herb, picked in 2021, right? You might miss the opportunity of a prospect like that. You think about even going back to 2015, some guy by the name of Nikola Jokic came through and became a superstar, right? Going back to 1999, a guy like Manu Ginobili came through, unheralded, nobody really knew him, and he ended up becoming a star. Or borderline star, depending on how you look on it. But definitely make the Hall of Fame at some point. Last year, we drafted Antonio Reeves in the second round, who proved to be a really good spark plug scorer, right? There's a lot of potential opportunity, and luck seems to be favored on our side a little bit more with these second round picks. I talked about Herb, I talked about Antonio Reeves. So perhaps maybe luck keeps going again. Does that mean we're gonna find that guaranteed star? We're gonna find that that franchise cornerstone? No, but it never hurts to give yourself more opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it's all about. Give yourself more opportunity to potentially see, to venture. And if we do look, this is a very deep draft class. Now, Chris Lambert brought up a guy who I was very intrigued by when I was like doing my film study of him. But Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. Now, the young man is 7'1", 250 pounds. And he was a senior this past year, but he's only 22 years old. Averaged 20 a game, 11 boards, 2 assists, and a block on 47 from the field, 35 from 3, and 77 from the free throw line. Now, numbers like these, I was like, I need to really watch his game because numbers like these, those are first-round draft pick numbers. Those are numbers that get you drafted high. Those are numbers that get you paid. But I was like, okay, like what is it that is causing an aversion for scouts? You know, and he doesn't have. There are things that are working against him. Things like his age, which is funny, but his age is just given that he's a senior, and his age and where he's at right now, his foot speed, his lack of hops, and he's not a stud defender. And not a great athlete in general. So there are some legitimate concerns on that end. But in terms of being a floor spacer, in terms of being able to handle the ball if need be, in terms of being able to have a nice low post game, I liked a lot of the comparisons that he was given. Now, the first two are like, and the fourth one are like the ultimate like super ceiling. But the rest I feel like are pretty realistic, and for a second-round pick, you could do a lot worse. But Brook Lopez is one of them, Stanford connection. I like that one. Like they have a similar shooting form. Rasheed Wallace, that's a again these two are like the ultimate like, oh, we really knocked it out the park. But I've talked about the Pistons quite a lot in relation and. Connection to but I've talked about in relation and connection to Joe Dumars and the team that he built. Obviously, Rasheed Wallace was a very valuable trade piece that they acquired, and it led to them winning the NBA Finals in 2004. Brook Lopez was a very valuable member of the Nets for a long time when they were having their struggles, and he was a very valuable role player to the Bucks team that won in 2021. You know what I'm saying? As a floor spacer, as a defender. Luke Cornett, who I talked about a video or two ago about us potentially getting. That comparison was on NBA DraftNet. I can kind of see that one, and just like also seeing who Luke Cornett was when he played at Vanderbilt in college. I could see where they were going with that one. I do think that this kid has a bit more of a higher ceiling. You know what I'm saying? I think he's got more to his game, but it's not a horrible or awful comparison. Luke Cornett is someone is going to pay Luke Cornett a pretty reasonable amount of money this offseason just because he does have value, he does have ability. That is worthwhile to invest in. Marc Gasol, that's also an ultimate he really reaches a ceiling. He reaches the ceiling. But Marc Gasol was one of the best centers of the 2010s. Won a Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star, All-NBA First Team, and he won a championship with the Raptors in 2019. He was their starting center, and he played a very valuable role in the playoff run, and then the finals itself. And yeah, Marc Gasol is also another one of the greatest second-round picks. You know what I'm saying? If you get a Marc Gasol, obviously you're not complaining. Frank Kaminsky and Kelly Olynyk, they kind of both cancel each other out, but both again tall bigs who can handle the ball if need be, but they're more so floor spacers. Neither became stars. Ironically, like they both had a lot of college hype. With Frank, coming out of Wisconsin, and Kelly out of Gonzaga. Neither became a star. We've got Kelly right now. He's a good off the bench floor spacer. And Frank was with Charlotte. with the Hornets. So all these are for a player that you get in the second round. You could do a lot worse. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's reasonable to add. Now, if we have to add a second round pick, giving up anything crazy, no. But this is a very deep draft class. There's going to be prospects that teams are going to be like looking like, damn, I had a chance to get them. Why didn't I get them? So I'm all for us not living in that regretful state, and I'm all for us being able to walk away with a potential gem. You know what I'm saying? Pressure bust pipes, but it also makes diamonds. I would love for us to find a diamond in the rough, whether it's a big, whether it's a guard, a forward, whatever. But I do feel like there is intrigue that I have with this kid, Matani, how do you pronounce his name? He's French. My last name is French, and even I'll be having Maxime. I'm tripping. Yeah, Maxime Renaud. I could even my pronunciation could use some work. But you get a player like that who has shown development across multiple years. Some people definitely question like with Stanford because they weren't an NCAA tournament team. They were in the NIT. Some people like, oh, well, he feasted against weak competition. And, you play the competition that you play. That's all only you can work on. But I think that there is a lot of skill. There is a lot of ability that he has. But if not him, I do think there's others. Because, look, we only got one pick. And conventional wisdom suggests that we're going to keep that pick and, hoping and praying we draft smartly. Hoping and praying. No guarantees. But I'm going to knock on wood that I'm hoping we walk away from the draft with an amazing, amazing player at pick 7. But I'm not opposed to us getting a second-round pick just to have a little extra insurance. You never know. Our previous success with Antonio Reeves and with Herb Jones, hey, third time's the charm. Why not? But we'll see what ends up happening. We'll see what ends up taking place and going down. There's a lot more to cover, a lot more to experience. NBA Finals is on right now. That's going to have an influence on this draft and what teams are going to be building for, XYZ. And then we have some very fun offseason stuff. So I say that all to say, make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you like and share the videos. Make sure that you follow Fan Arch on all social media platforms. Follow your boy, Dylan_Bruton10. You know what I'm saying? Keep showing love. Keep showing up. That's what it's all about. So much more Pelicans news to cover. This one's a little quick, but hey, sometimes that's what you got to do. But y'all stay blessed. Y'all have a great rest of your week. You're going to be seeing me plenty. Do not worry. This face ain't going nowhere. All right, y'all. Y'all stay blessed and amazing.